Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is MahfuzVanGogh, your dredge guy, and I'm here today to show you another legacy league with Turbo Dredge, this time with my last version with a 4th Leyline of Sanctity in the sideboard, just to be stronger to confront the green decks in our metagame with Endurance and Bojuka Bog and Average Reclaimer and so on. So I'm playing with the exactly same 74 cards except for this, and now I don't have Hogak anymore in my sideboard. Hogak is a fantastic card in Dredge, but in this specific build, I'm not feeling the necessity of having an extra threat after sideboarding, even against fair decks. Just a single Ichorid to be slightly stronger against Surgical Extraction, since we already have many different threats, but an extra Ichorid can be the cherry on top of this deck against fair decks. Besides that, the deck feels extremely strong. I'm holding a high win rate percentage with this deck, sometimes above 70%. With this deck so far, above 80% in Magic Online only. I'm not having the opportunity to play this in paper lately, but yeah, I think the deck is strong. Duskana, some players feels that Duskana is a win more card, but I disagree. Duskana can feel, we can feel Duskana as a win more card when we reveal Duskana late in the game, when we don't need her anymore. But when you reveal Duskana really early in your game, in your matches, sometimes you have only one bridge and only one Poxwalkers or Nakomoiba and just 3 creatures, including 1 zombie, and then you feel that, well, if this card were a Flamekin Zealot instead, I could bring my Dread Return target from the graveyard, but it would be not lethal, because I don't have many creatures yet. I need 1 or 2 or maybe 3 more turns dredging, sometimes with slow dredging, until I find my enough threats, and then you give time to your opponent to just be prepared to fight your Dread Return target. So this kinda speeds up the game. Sometimes you have only 3 creatures, maybe 1 Poxwalkers, 1 Nakomoiba, other Nakomoiba, and a single bridge from below, and then you Dread Return Duskana. And it is amazing because you'll find Anger, Ox, and so on. Sometimes even better than that, with 4, 5, 6 or more zombies, and then you can mill your entire deck. In my personal experience, every time I cast Dread Return targeting Duskana, I win the game. It's something like more than 95% of win rate every time I cast Dread Return targeting Duskana. So I think that this is really good, and it just feels different from other cards that give haste to all your creatures. Instead of giving haste with a single card, you will mill your deck entirely until you find your Anger. Even if Anger is the last card in your deck, you just sometimes need to do the math to not lose the game by milling yourself. So, for deck out. So yeah, this is the deck, Turbo Dredge 2.0. I think the deck is well positioned. You just need to have some repetition to understand that this deck is turbo, but sometimes you don't have a turbo hand, and you need to balance your first plays, sequencing your spells until you have a turbo turn. Not necessarily the first one, sometimes the second, sometimes the third. This feels like a combo deck that you will work to reach your combo kill in a single turn almost every time. So let's try to do our best here. Let's play a Legacy League, and I hope you enjoy this video. Let's go. Okay, so this is round 1 against Vibu. This is a mulligan. We can do much better than that. Okay, we are on the draw. So let's consider our chances to win with this hand. This is quite slow because I can Cabal Therapy myself, put in a single Dredger, and then hopefully on turn 2 we can reach we can reveal, we can dredge an Otherworldly Gaze or maybe a Faithless Looting. And then on turn 2 we have some possibilities here. But this is really slow. On the draw I think I keep it. I'm not sure what my opponent is playing. Maybe I could try a faster hand than that. But this is really resilient. Sometimes we can even draw a card that will resolve this hand entirely. So I'll keep this hand. It's not perfect, but I'll keep it. Bridge from Below is the extra card that we can put back into our deck. This fetch land will shuffle it back. And let's start. My opponent has the first play here, Swamp, and pass the turn. Okay. Maybe this is Reanimator. The Fatal Coliseum is a great addition to our strategy here. Unfortunately, I cannot crack it Scouting Turn yet because I need to cast Cabal Therapy targeting myself here. So let's test our opponent's hand. I don't know if they have blue or not. So let's put LED first. Okay, it resolves. So Underground Sea, casting Cabal Therapy targeting ourselves. Okay, Sync with Imp. And now my opponent knows my entire hand. We can just pass a turn here. If this is a Reanimator, they will probably play Entomb at the end of the turn. Oh no, just a second throw, okay. If all they have is this throw and a Reanimate spell, we are good. We are good to win this game, but if they have something else, maybe another strong turn to play, just a Surveil land, okay. And those lands are really good against counterspell decks because they can filter your draws and sometimes put your reanimation target directly in play. But I don't think in Dredge, especially in a fast build like Turbo Dredge, I don't think this is that good. And you see, my opponent is reanimating not their troll, but our Dredger, because they understand that this card is really dangerous and we can win the game on the next turn, because they have a slow hand. So, okay. My opponent now loses 3 life, and we would like to draw something good here. A Thug. What we can do? I can play Scouting Turn, crack it, play a Golgari Thug, cast Cabal Therapy targeting myself, put a Golgari Thug into my graveyard again. I'm not sure if this is the right call, because if my opponent has any other reanimation spell, they will reanimate my Golgari Thug, and I will just draw my second Thug next turn. So let's see if we can do something different. If I play Cephalic Coliseum and crack my hand right now, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards into my graveyard. But next turn I will have one more, with this Scouting Turn having being cracked and my next card. So I think my best shot here is just playing Scouting Turn and passing the turn. This Scouting Turn will be our 7th card to crack Cephalic Coliseum next turn with 2 Dredgers. And maybe my opponent casts a Thoughtseize effect targeting us. That will be nice. My opponent attacks me for 1. And that's it. With 4 cards in hand. Maybe they have something like Opposition Agent. If they do, it's not that bad. Because this card is... Okay, they don't. Because this card serves our purpose of having a 3-shot next turn. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need one more card to achieve that, but now I can cast this Stink with Imp as a blocker. So why not? Or maybe I don't, because if I do, I don't have 3-shot next turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, maybe I just wait a little bit more, one more turn. My opponent is not threatening me. So I think we can just wait one more turn here. Maybe they have lots of reanimation spells, and they are holding them to target my creatures. I don't know. Profane Tutor, okay. Now we will crack LED. I can even put this extra land into play because it will be my extra card anyways, because I can crack this land. So I will have Volcanic Island here. And I will crack LED for red mana. And now I will just crack Cephalic Coliseum. Using red mana here because maybe I will end with Golgari Thug in my hand and I can cast it at some point, if I have an Ox, for example. Okay, Ox, yeah, that's exactly how I was expecting. Sometimes, probably not this game, but sometimes with 5 mana available here, I can cast Ox of Agonas with 3 extra mana, and if I already hit everything I need, I can just cast another creature. If I don't reveal Poxwalkers or Narcomoebas, I still need at least one Narcomoeba here. But I will put Ox into play, and I will have both Poxwalkers back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one more card, Otherworldly Gaze. Ox is escaping from our graveyard. Drawing 3 cards, and we will dredge 18. Now we have Dredge Return, Narcomoeba, and Duskana. Yeah, we won. Now, so this is what I was talking about at the intro of this video. Sometimes, if this Ox was a Duskana instead, we would have... Okay, my opponent is conceding. We will have enough to just mill our entire deck. But now Duskana feels like a win more because we feel that it is an extra card. We already have a Dredge Return, a Faithless Looting. We can do many things here. But this is turn 4. This game was actually kind of slow, considering that was Dredge against Reanimator. So against Reanimator, I would like to put Leyline of the Void in, of course. I don't like my big creatures, my large creatures. I can take them out. And since I'm on the draw, sometimes I like to have... I'm still testing the better sideboarding with this deck, considering that we won game 1 and now we are on game 2 on the draw. Sometimes my opponents, my Reanimator opponents, will have something like Doughty Voidwalker to fight us back with hate. So I think I like Stern Dismissals 2 or 3, just to have the possibility of maybe bouncing one Doughty Voidwalker and then going forward after that. This on the draw specifically, and since we don't know the build of our opponent. Considering that, I will take an Anger and 2 Otherworldly Gaze that are quite slow in this matchup. I would love to hit a Leyline of the Void, and going from there, we can have a slow hand, but with a Leyline, we can achieve what we need to win against Reanimator. The worst that can happen is that they play a Doughty Voidwalker on turn 1, and we have no ways to bounce it. This is tough. Some Reanimator opponents sometimes have 4 Doughty Voidwalkers. Some players play with 3. Some players use 2. And some players are not on Doughty Voidwalkers. So some players also play with Fairy Macabre right now, lately. This is good. Instead of having a deck frozen on time, yeah, the format evolves. Like Dredge is evolving, trying new things, Reanimator trying new things. We saw the Surveil Lands. But this was a good game of Magic. Okay, we have Leyline and we have Stern Dismissal. Unfortunately, this basic mountain is haunting us, but this is of course a keep, and we'll have ways to do better than that soon. Especially because my opponent is keeping 7, so we keep this 2. And my opponent has Leyline of the Void, or maybe it's another Leyline. Okay, my opponent also have Leyline. Yeah, but well, this will be a Leyline, a Leyline war. Let's see who can cast their creatures first. In moments like this, Blue Dredge is a better build than Turbo Dredge, because sometimes with a Blue Dredge, you have ways to easily cast your black creatures from your hand. And I won lots of games, lots of matches against Leyline decks that couldn't play anything else from their hand. Like this, in this situation, my opponent probably cannot cast anything here. Their best shot is trying to reanimate some of our creatures, but since they have Leyline, they cannot do that. So, yeah, let's see what my opponent is thinking here a lot. Oh, let me adjust that. Okay, swamp and pass. We have our blue land. I'll play it, but I'm not sure if I will immediately cast this Stern Dismissal. I will cast it in response to a discard spell, but I'm not sure if I will cast it immediately, because my opponent can cast Leyline of the Void again. So it feels better to hold Stern Dismissal a little bit more if I can wait. My opponent is cracking Bloodstained Mire. Maybe this is a Surveil time? Surveil land? No, just a Bayou. Okay, my opponent will try to win with the combo kill with Witherbloom Apprentice. This is one more reason to not cast Stern Dismissal right now, because maybe I need this Stern Dismissal to just protect myself from the combo when they try to combo me. So let's draw something good here. Poxwalkers is not something good. I will play the mountain and pass the turn. I'll not just hold the mountain expecting to discard the Golgari Grief Draw, because this I can do that in case I have another blue land, maybe, in play to crack Cephalic Coliseum on the next turn after bouncing Leyline, for example. But right now I'm not feeling safe. My opponent will attack me for 2. We need to be patient here. And you see, my opponent maybe has, maybe already have the 4th land. So when I bounce this Leyline, I need to be ready to keep going with my own plan. And I'm not ready right now. I need Faithless Looting or something else. An Otherworldly Gaze would be good to find what we need. Okay, my opponent thought for a long moment and just passed the turn. Draw. Okay, this is another blue land. I will play it and pass the turn. Let's keep being patient. And I cannot wait to just discard the Golgari Grief Draw by hand size, because my opponent will probably have ways to play Leyline of the Void in the next turn. So here I need an enabler. I need Faithless Looting and Careful Study, and LED would be good. Not great, but good. Actually, it would be really good because an LED here allows us to crack our entire hand and Cephalic Coliseum as well. So Narcomoeba is really bad. We will play it, but it is bad. Probably our worst draw in our entire deck. But I still think we have good chances here. We have many good draws. And my opponent is only attacking with Apprentice. Draw? Okay, Otherworldly Gaze is good. Because now we can be bold here. I can be really bold here. At the end of our opponent's turn, bouncing Leyline, and then cast Otherworldly Gaze, putting maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards into our deck, and then replaying it if we need, trying to hit at least a Cabal Therapy. I can even wait one more turn, but this is already turn 5, so I'm not feeling confident to wait one more turn. We can definitely wait one more turn according to what we see our opponent doing, but I'm inclined to just cast Stun Dismissal targeting Leyline and then Otherworldly Gaze maybe twice to hit whatever we need. Unless my opponents try to combo off with Balloon Apprentice. Entomb, okay. My opponent is just filling the deck with this Entomb. They chose... what they chose? Another Entomb, it makes sense. Maybe they don't have ways to get rid of this Leyline. Okay, attacking is good. This is a good sign. Okay, my opponent is casting Grief. Okay, so this is the moment. This is the moment. If my opponent has not only Grief, but another way to cast again Leyline, or maybe combo with the Balloon Apprentice, we lose the game. But I think we have no choice here, so I will bounce Leyline. My guts tells me that if my opponent had the combo, they would already have tried to combo us. So I will cast Stun Dismissal first, and I can cast Otherworldly Gaze right now, but forcing my opponent to put anything here in my graveyard. But I think I will wait, because my opponent probably have another reanimation spell. So it is better for me actually if my opponent just forces me to discard Otherworldly Gaze, and then I cast Otherworldly Gaze at the end of the turn. So I think I will just let this resolve, because if this Otherworldly Gaze reveals a Dredger, my opponent can just reanimate my Dredger, and my effort will be in vain. If my opponent have another land and cast Leyline again, I can cast Otherworldly Gaze trying to hit second Dismissal. But I only have 3, right? I think I just... let me see. I think I just chose 3. I wasn't expecting Leyline of the Void. This is pretty rare, talking about reanimator choices. Doubt Voidwalker is usually... yeah, my opponent has the combo. Okay. So we will not win this game, unfortunately. Let's concede. So my opponent was smart and actually played around a Dismissal. This is interesting. So since my opponent plays with the Chain of Smog combo and also have Leyline, I feel the need of having all of my Dismissals. But this is tough because having so many Dismissal effects in Leyline of the Void puts us back, right? We need to win the game. We cannot only play defensively. But Leyline of the Void is still a really good card against my opponent's deck. Let's see. Because my opponent can win through the combo or through some reanimation spell. I think I will take 1 Poxwalkers here, and if maybe 1 Leyline. Maybe 1 Leyline of the Void. We can take many cards here. We can take even 1 LED. Some players don't like to take LED ever. Side out LED ever from the deck. But I don't see why not, especially against decks like this, when you spend many turns trying to get rid of a Leyline of the Void and you cannot discard your hand. But I don't think we will side out Lion's Eye Diamond here, because we want to be fast when we have the opportunity to be fast. I like to keep at least 1 Poxwalkers, because it is a really good card with Cabal Therapy and Bridges to win the game. But I will not have Anger here. I can take 1 Otherworldly Gaze, but I like Otherworldly Gaze, two of them. Maybe I don't need 4 dismissals, maybe 5 dismissals, maybe 4 dismissals is enough. I don't know if my opponent have 4 Leyline of the Void, or maybe only 3 or even 2. Not every player have 4 ley lines. But on the draw, I believe my opponent will try to hit a ley line. So I'll keep 5 dismissal effects. Let's try with only 3 ley line on the play. Yeah, let's try only 3 ley lines. We could go to only 10 dredgers. We could take 1 bridge out. But yeah, this is actually really good. We have ways to stop my opponent's first plan. We have ways to dismissal my opponent's ley line, and then cracking LED on the first turn, everything at the same time. Yeah. So we think for a moment and keep this hand. To be better, this could be a Volcanic Island, but this is the price we pay to be better, to be more resilient against Wasteland decks. My opponent don't have ley line, but we do. So I will not wait a single second to try to combo, because my opponent can have grief and then we just lose, I guess. I could wait one more turn trying to hit another land or maybe a second dredger. Discarding my hand here is really bad if my opponent has something like Fairy Macabre, but I don't see that coming if my opponent already have Leyline of the Void. So let's discard our hand right now. Dredge 4 and Dredge 5, 2 bridges already, but no Narcos. And now we want an Narcomoeba. We deeply want an Narcomoeba to cast Cabal Therapy and disrupt my opponent's hand. My opponent can try to reanimate one of our creatures, but we have many dredgers here. So I'll just press F6 here. My opponent can have the win on turn 3 with the combo, through the combo. So if we reveal an Narcomoeba, I will first name Witherbloom Apprentice, and going from there, we can choose other cards. My opponent plays Bloodstained Mire and pass the turn. This will be probably a Surveil land. Narcomoeba? No Narcomoebas. And nothing good. So this was a miss. Let's pass the turn. We just have a second Cabal Therapy, which is good. If we reveal a Narcomoeba next turn, we can cast both therapies. My opponent exiles a Swamp, and we pass the turn. Do my opponent have Witherbloom Apprentice? Swamp? Yeah, they do. Okay, we need a Narcomoeba as soon as possible. Right now, if possible. Narcomoeba? Yeah! Okay, so this is not a guaranteed win. My opponent can top deck a Chain of Smog and we lose the game at any moment. So let's see what my opponent is hiding. We have 2 zombies and we have a second therapy coming after the first. Chain of Smoke. Yeah, 2 Chain of Smokes, okay? And my opponent now have a Leyline of the Void, an Entomb, and a Cabal Therapy. So they will discard both Chain of Smog. And do I cast my next therapy? I don't think I do. My opponent can reanimate a Stinkweed Imp, but my opponent already have a Leyline of the Void. I would like to keep this Cabal Therapy to maybe have more zombies with a second Narcomoeba, because my opponent has nothing that scares, nothing scary right now. So I'll just pass a turn here. We don't need to take Entomb, Reanimate, Cabal Therapy, or Leyline of the Void right now from our opponent's hand, so no rush. I'll just press F6 here. Actually, I will not. My opponent maybe is distracted and think that casting Cabal Therapy targeting me is a good thing to do. Grief! Okay. You see? Sometimes your opponent is just distracted. I, of course, have only dredgers in my hand because I started the game cracking LED. But my opponent didn't pay attention to that. And now they actually helped me because if they reanimate one Stinkweed Imp, we have another one. No attacks. And we want a second Narcomoeba. And we can attack without the fear of exiling our bridges from our graveyard, because with Leyline in play, if my opponent's creature that is not a token dies, it will not die. It will go to exile instead. So if my opponent attacks, I just block and we move on with our bridges. Let's dredge 5 here. No Narcomoebas, but now we have a Poxwalkers. So let's attack first to consider our options. So what we can do here if I cast Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent, I lose one zombie and I'll have one Poxwalkers instead, and I can take Reanimate from my opponent's hand, and that's it. So my opponent will not try to reanimate my Poxwalkers, for example. If my opponent reanimates my Poxwalkers, they lose 3 life, and Poxwalkers is just a blocker that will gain us a zombie when it dies. So in any case, I think we don't need to rush things here. Cabal Therapy can be useful later. So even if my opponent just reanimates Poxwalkers, this is actually better for us. So no rush here, no rush again. Let's just pass the turn. My opponent shouldn't exile Leyline of the Void as a cost of casting Grief, because they could draw 2 lands in a row, and maybe a late Leyline of the Void is better than no Leyline of the Void. So I don't think this was a good play. But it's hard to understand every small choice, right? So my opponent is probably holding Reanimate with the hopes of me revealing a large creature, but surprise, surprise, I don't have them anymore. I sided them out to include ley lines and dismissal effects. So now that we have an extra bridge, I will just attack again, and I still think I don't do a move here, because I don't have a single Cabal Therapy. I have a single Cabal Therapy, and it will not affect my clock here. My opponent will block at some point, so I'll just pass the turn again. My opponent is not attacking me, which is interesting, because they could attack me, but of course they don't need to. They will try to top deck a Chain of Smoke, probably. Probably this is their best shot. Dredge 6 now. No, okay, but now we have a second Cabal Therapy, so now we can reanimate Poxwalkers to have more zombies. Not reanimate, right? You know what I mean. We can route back, we can get back Poxwalkers to have lethal on board. So I'll cast Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent, sacrificing a zombie. Poxwalkers will come back. I will name Reanimate here, but do I name Reanimate? Actually, well, I will, because there's nothing that can hurt us except for a top-decked Chain of Smoke. Okay, and now we can name Animate Dead, because Animate Dead can reanimate one of our creatures as a blocker to buy them 1 turn. And now my opponent has only 1 shot to win this game, top-decking a Chain of Smoke. Let's see if they can do it. Of course, they have other outs to buy a turn, like drawing another Animate Dead, for example. But if they don't, we win the game. My opponent plays Verdant Catacombs. This was their draw, so I think they just lost. Yeah, they are trying to win, to have some life back here with Cabal Therapy. Maybe they just cast Entomb and Dark Ritual just to have more life. But even if they do this, they will go back to 10 life, and they will need to use Witherbloom Apprentice as a blocker finally. We will dredge 5 here. Another bridge, but no Narcos, just 1 Narco. You see that Poxwalkers is our 5th Narco, sometimes 6th Narco each game. So we attack here. My opponent need to block one of our creatures, because we are attacking for 11 damage. My opponent can go back to 10. Yeah, they will block and cast something to gain 1 life. Probably Dark Ritual, or maybe Entomb to trying to in the deck. But my opponent needs 2 top decks, not only 1. So I think this game is ours. Oh, my opponent is casting both. So now they'll have 0 cards in hand. I don't know what my opponent can draw here to win the game. We'll have much more zombies here. We have a zombie army now. This is turn 7. I'll press F6. My opponent will have a natural draw without cracking Catacombs first. And they conceded the game. Okay, we won our first match against a different build of Reanimator with a combo kill without creatures, or true creatures, but without attacking. And now we are 1-0. Let's go to our second match. Enjoying the deck? I encourage you to go check my Patreon, The Dredge Guide. You'll find dozens of articles and comprehensive guides to sideboard your Dredge deck, along with videos with detailed explanations. All of my patrons will also have access to watch my legacy challenges and Magic Online leagues. So I'd like to thank you, my current patrons here on the screen, who support the creations of videos like this one. Now back to the games. Okay, round 2. This time we are on the play. And yeah, this hand is quite good. This hand could be a turn 1. We can try to win on turn 1 with this hand. Let's test my opponent's hand with both LEDs first. So we keep. Unfortunately, we have 1 Arcomoeba, but this hand is not a mulligan at all. Having 2 LEDs plus 1 Careful Study plus our best treasure, this is chef's kiss. So my opponent had a mulligan. And in situations like that, when you are on the play, you have many different enablers, and your opponent maybe is playing something like a counterspell deck, you don't know yet. You test your opponent's hand little by little. Okay, Lions Eye Diamond resolves. So since my opponent had no interaction, I will try to win on turn 1. Maybe they just forces this careful study, but if they do, we still have an extra LED for next turn. Okay, it resolves. Let's try to win. We already revealed a Faithless Looting. We already have a Duskana here, so this is important. And 1 Bridge and 1 Poxwalkers and Anger. So we have all. This would be an easy turn 1 win, except if my opponent has something like Solitude. But even that, I think, even with Solitude, I think we have the win here. So now I'll cast this Faithless Looting with Flashback. Poxwalkers will come back. We need a single Dredge return to win the game. Dredge 6. Dredge return, yeah, and Dredge 6. And we'll discard both Grief Trolls. To show you the force of the Duskana, let's assume that we don't have this LED here. Let's just cast... yeah, this is the assumption that I was talking about in the intro. So, we have already 1, 2 bridges. So let's cast Dredge Return, targeting the Duskana here, sacrificing 3 creatures. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zombies. This is actually not the best example because we already have lethal, even if the Duskana was another Dredge Return target. But in the case we have 1 less bridge, for example, or if our opponent has something to do in response, the Duskana is great because it's her trigger will mill the entire deck at the same moment. So now we will draw 6. My opponent is considering their options here and just concedes the game without revealing any information. So in the dark, do I change anything? Do I change anything in the dark? On the draw, I don't like the turbo kill with the Duskana because my opponent maybe plays something like Reanimator and the Duskana is not so strong. And we are in the dark, completely blind here. So I just change 1 Duskana for 1 Eco Read, because if my opponent plays something like Surgical Extraction, this is a better place to be. But I will not include ley lines in the dark or even answers to ley line in the dark. So this is just a slightly adjustment because we are on the draw against an unknown opponent. So let's just submit back. Okay, now we are on the draw. What about this hand? This hand is a great mulligan to, is a good mulligan to 4. This is the way I like to analyze my initial hands playing Dredge. Bridge from below is useless in our initial hand. We want to reveal Bridge, Dredge Return, and Poxwalkers when we mill our deck, when we dredge. So I think this hand is just average, and I will try to mulligan into a better one. This is worse, so we mulligan again. Okay, this is interesting because we have an LED, and but I don't like to keep hands without lands on the draw. Of course, we can just draw a land, and this hand is fantastic. Or I can try to hit a better 4 cards. I'll try it. Okay, this is our best hand so far. It's debatable, of course, but I think this is the best hand because now we have this sequence here. This is our best 4 cards so far, because if my opponent has some way to disrupt us, we still have 2 great lands to try to do our thing next turn. If my opponent is not a counterspell deck, I can just resolve Careful Study and then have a Cephalic Coliseum. Of course, this is this evolution here of our plays depends on what my opponent is playing, but I think this is slightly stronger than our first hand, so I'll keep this. And I will put Faithless Looting, Narcomoeba, and Anger back. I don't care that much about the order here because I don't think this game will be decided if Narcomoeba is our last card or the 2 cards on top of our last card. Okay, my opponent is my opponent is probably a control deck or maybe a Cephalic Breakfast, Tundra, and Ponder. And my opponent kept 7 cards, so we are in a disadvantaged position here. We draw something good, maybe an LED. A mountain is not that bad. So let's try to resolve our Careful Study. My opponent chooses to not shuffle with Ponder, so I'm not confident that this Careful Study will resolve. Yeah, and my opponent has Daze. The best thing for us now is that our opponent plays with some discard spell, because we have only Instinct with Imp to be discarded. Tundra again. Okay, this is Cephalic Breakfast. Cephalic Coliseum is a good answer to try to win against Cephalic Breakfast sometimes, but we need to have Threshold, and we don't have it yet. So I'll just play my second Cephalic Coliseum and pass the turn. My opponent can have the win here. Yeah, and they do. So they have the win. We would not win against this turn 2. Actually, turn 3 was turn 2. Let's see if my opponent has something interesting in the deck. Let's see if they have some graveyard hate against us. Okay, one Surgical Extraction, Cauldron Complete, the Stoneforge Mystic package with Shuko and Cauldron or Enchant. And here we can see Thassa's Oracle. They will reanimate Thassa's Oracle here. Another Surgical Extraction, okay. So 2 of them. And now this is the moment that, okay, my opponent opted to mill their entire deck. So this is an information for us. Because here, if we have pre-showed, I can just crack Cephalic Coliseum targeting my opponent and win the game on the spot, forcing them to draw cards from an empty deck. So my opponent is just casting Cabal Therapy to see if the coast is clear. Maybe they will name Fairy Macabre. Surgical Extraction, okay. And now they will just reanimate Thassa's Oracle and win. Okay, now that we know what we are playing against, let's consider our options again. Ashen Rider is kind of interesting against this deck because it is quite good to exile some creatures. Even the Scan of Ashen Rider will come back to our deck. But my opponent plays with Surgical Extraction. And Surgical is really good to get rid of Narcomoebas, Poxwalkers, or maybe Bridges. So I think I want to have one of these creatures back. I will try Ashen Rider instead of the Scanner here. Because Ashen Rider can the Scanner can just win the game. But the Scanner is really bad against Surgical Extraction. Because Surgical can target your Bridges. And then the Scanner will have no effects because maybe you don't create any zombies. So the Scanner will be just a 5/5. Against Surgical Extraction, I prefer to have Ashen Rider. But I need to take one more card from my deck. I like Ichorid against Surgical Extraction. But I do think my opponent plays with only 2 Surgicals and nothing more. And if my opponent decides to target Narcomoebas or Poxwalkers or Bridges with Surgical Extraction, we still have ways to win the game even without this Ichorid. Since we are on the play, I will take this Ichorid, including Ashen Rider. We can always cast an Ox of Agonas, for example, if we really need it. And I noticed that my opponent, maybe this is a new deck for them, because I noticed that my opponent already had a win. They don't need it to mill their deck until 0 cards. They already had 2 cards on top of the deck, and they already revealed everything they needed. The last 2 or 3 cards were not useful to win. But they try to mill their entire deck just to be sure. So I think this is maybe, my reading here is that this maybe is a new deck for them. So if I have a Cephalic Coliseum like this, I will just hold Cephalic Coliseum if I feel that my opponent can win next turn. But unfortunately this hand is a mulligan, we don't have any enablers. So we will mulligan. This, unfortunately, no lands, no keep. Come on deck, be good, be good. You're better than that. Let's show what you're capable of doing. So we are mulligan to 6, my opponent kept 7. This is scary. Oh no. Okay, we can cast Cabal Therapy targeting us, naming Stinkweed Imp, and then we have a Cephalic Coliseum available for us on our turn 3. We can even cast Golgari Thug on turn 2 to target my opponent with Cabal Therapy, naming anything else. So this is not a great hand, but I think this is a keep. I will put Bridge back. And 1 Stinkweed Imp back in case my opponent has something like Surgical Extraction. So we're done. My opponent kept 7. This is really scary. I will try to do my thing. I will not. My opponent doesn't play with Wasteland, so we can have Underground Sea here. No fear. And I will try to do my thing here, casting Cabal Therapy targeting myself. If my opponent has Surgical Extraction, that's life, and we have the opportunity to hit on other things. Stinky. Stinky goes to our graveyard, and supported by the fetch land, next turn we will have a threshold to activate Coliseum if we need to. Unless my opponent has Surgical here targeting our Dredger. If my opponent Shuko, okay. So my opponent maybe have the turn 2 kill, and because of that I will hold Cephalic Coliseum here instead of cracking it. Just passing the turn, we have Otherworldly Gaze to be casted from our graveyard if my opponent doesn't have the combo kill. Urza Saga, okay. They do have the combo kill, so let's see if they understand how this match goes. They need to be careful to not mill their entire deck. My opponent was really good at keeping great 7-card hands against us. So they are milling. Serenity. Serenity was included to fight Leyline of the Void, possible Leyline of the Void. 2 Serenities. Surgical, 2 Surgicals already revealed. Thassa's Oracle is there, Dredge Return is there, but no Narcomoebas yet. First Narco. Maybe they have some Narcomoebas in their hand. They need 3 creatures to reanimate Thassa's Oracle with Dredge Return. 12 cards in the deck. My opponent, okay, the second Narcomoeba. My opponent is considering something, okay. 3 Narcomoebas. My opponent has 6 cards in their deck, 3 cards now, and 0 cards. Okay, so we have the win because my opponent wasn't careful enough. My opponent is trying to win the game with Thassa's Oracle, and in response I will force them to draw 3 cards. It's so amazing that Cephalic Coliseum can target your opponent, not only you. And since Dredge is not that common for some players, they are not used to play against Dredge, sometimes you will not expect it. And my opponent just concedes before losing the game because of Cephalic Coliseum. Yeah, and we won our second match against Cephalid Breakfast. So we are 2-0. Let's go to our third match. So this is our next match against Telepandomian. And we are on the play. This hand, unfortunately, is a mulligan. If we had only one land, this would be a solid keep. And this hand is not that fast, but it is a keep. I will keep it. Put in a Narcomoeba back. My opponent is having their first mulligan. And they also kept 6. We start with Volcanic Island and Careful Study. Maybe this was this was really a punt here. I shouldn't play in this order because Faithless Looting can only be casted through the mounting. So maybe I should, if I want to play Careful Study first, I should play Careful Study from the Underground Sea. So this was a punt, just to show you. We need to sequence our spells. Hopefully this will not be that bad. And we have Otherworldly Gaze and Cabal Therapy available now. So our opponent plays Bloodstained Mire, crack it. Basic Mounting. Goblin Welder. Okay, so this is Painter. This is Painter. I could play Otherworldly Gaze right now, but I don't think this is wise because I have already 2 things to do from my hand here. So I would just have a Dredge first, Dredge 5. Would I have a Dredge, please? Yes. How many? 5. Okay, Dredge 5 for you, sir. So, a Bridge in an Angar. My opponent is tapped, so I will just cast this Faithless Looting first. Dredge 4. And nothing else. But a Poxwalkers, okay. Do I cast a Blind Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent? Naming something probably like Goblin Engineer? Because my opponent right now has no artifacts. And Goblin Engineer can be really bad for us. We could name Painter, Painter Servant, but if my opponent deploys a Painter here and another artifact, they can just put what we name here back with Goblin Welder. So I'm thinking about Goblin Engineer here. I will discard my both Dredgers, and I'll cast Cabal Therapy blindly, naming Goblin Engineer. But this is just a guess. I think Goblin Engineer is the scary card here. Because my opponent has no artifacts yet. So Goblin Engineer. No Goblin Engineer, just a Fable and a Painter. Okay, so this is a slow hand from our opponent. And if they don't have a fast mana next turn, I can just get rid of both Fables. Okay. So next turn I will cast Otherworldly Gaze in my... let's just press F2 here. I will cast Otherworldly Gaze in my upkeep. My opponent just... deploys what we already knew about it, and attack for 1. Here I will use Otherworldly Gaze with my Underground Sea in case I just reveal a Faithless Looting, for example. But I already have 3 lootings in my graveyard, but we can see the 4th. Remember to do this on your upkeep when you have another mana available. So unfortunately not that good here. So we'll just mill everything. I could keep my 3rd land, but I'm more interested about revealing another Narcomoeba. We don't, unfortunately. So next turn we will cast Otherworldly Gaze again, but with Flashback. And our zombies will have haste because we already have an Anger. The worst that can happen is that my opponent have a natural Grindstone here. So Fable, okay. This is a slow game. Sometimes we can be much faster than that, and my opponent also can be much faster than that. Now it's our time to reveal cards. Dredge 5, Narcomoeba, great. We already have a Dredge return. Not a good target yet. Let's cast Otherworldly Gaze with Flashback, and our Poxwalkers will come back. Okay, Careful Study is good for next turn. So let's put both Otherworldly Gaze there and 1 Careful Study on top. And now I have 2 Cabal Therapies. I can cast both of them targeting my opponent, but I also can cast one of them targeting myself just to put these Poxwalkers into my deck. I don't want to discard Phyrexian Dragon Engine, because when this card enters the battlefield from the graveyard, it is useful to our opponent. Coming from the hand, they will probably discard this card with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. So, let's calculate here. We have 1, 2, 3 bridges. If I cast both Cabal Therapies here, I will have 6 zombies, 13 damage. Maybe this extra Poxwalkers is not needed, because it will enter tapped, and we already have lethal in 2 turns. We also have Dredge Return here to consider, of course. I wasn't remember about Dredge Return, so maybe we already have lethal. The cards here, because of Painter, they are gold cards right now, and it really confuses me. So let's do here the math. Cabal Therapy targeting myself, sacrificing Poxwalkers, we have 3 zombies. We name Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers will be discarded. Second Cabal Therapy targeting myself again, naming Golgari Grave Troll. Both Poxwalkers come back, and then we have 6 zombies. Then Dredge Return, sacrificing both Poxwalkers and Arcomoeba. Dredge Return targeting Golgari Grave Troll. We'll have probably lethal here, yeah. I don't care about what my opponent is playing, I just want to win the game. So Cabal Therapy will name Poxwalkers here. We discard Poxwalkers. And you see how good this card can be in Dredge, right? Because maybe my opponent just have a natural draw here, discarding 2 cards. They will draw 3 cards next turn, and they have great chances of top decking a Grindstone and win the game. So if I have the chance to win the game right now, this is what I will do. Poxwalkers come back, and I name Grave Troll, just to have 1 extra creature in my graveyard. And now I will cast Dredge Return, targeting my Grave Troll, that will be large, sacrificing my 3 creatures, and having more than lethal available. You see, even for me that I'm playing this deck now for 2 to 3 weeks, but this line wasn't instantly available to me, because sometimes you see Dredge Return and you say, okay, I need a Dredge Return target, like DUSKANA, Ox, or maybe other cards that you might be playing. But no, you don't need. Sometimes Dredge Return is just a great card combined with Poxwalkers and Bridges, as we saw in that game. So we need to consider every line available for us. Against a Painter deck, sometimes they play Leyline of the Void. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes they play. It's really rare, for what I remember, that Painter players use 4 Leyline of the Void. Sometimes they have 3, sometimes 2, sometimes they play Surgical, sometimes Fairy Macabre. There are no consensus. But even if they have only other Graveyard Hate, Stern Dismissals are useful against them if they want to try to combo us without a Pyroblast or Red Elemental Blast to counter bounce spell, because they can activate Grindstone and we just bounce their Painter in response, for example. So Stern Dismissal is an okay card if they don't have Leyline, and it is amazing if they have Leyline. Leyline of Sanctity can be considered because they cannot target your you if you have a Leyline in play, so they cannot win with the combo. But they will probably just play a Painter and target Leyline with Pyroblast and destroy it. So I don't like to have Leyline here. Ashen Rider is interesting because these decks, some Painter decks, sometimes have a plan B with Ensnaring Breach, and you simply cannot win against an Ensnaring Breach because we are an aggro deck in our hearts. So Ashen Rider can get rid of one of them. Ashen Rider also can, and Stern Dismissals also can get rid, at least for 1 turn, can get rid of Urza Saga. And this is a nice tempo play if my opponent is relying on Urza Saga as a tutor to Soul Guide Lantern, for example. So I will include these 5 cards here, and I will take the combo off. I will take the combo from our deck. I will take Ox, and I will take 1 Dredge Return. But I will keep Anger, because I think Anger is good, as we saw last game. And I will take 2 of the Worldly Gazes, and try like that. After sideboarding against an unknown Graveyard Hate, we need to consider what we will try to hit, maybe blindly. For example, this hand is absolutely interesting if my opponent has Leyline of the Void, but they kept 7, so this hand is garbage if they just have a fast hand. I will not keep it just because it's Stern Dismissal. This hand will not do anything else, so I prefer to mulligan. This hand is interesting because I can cast Otherworldly Gaze trying to hit something good, and then proceed to having the nets on turns 2 and 3. But if these Otherworldly Gaze don't reveal anything that good, I will just see my opponent combo, and will be really Really bad for us. My opponent kept 7, so I think this is not a keep against good 7 cards. This is really slow, but both Cephalic Coliseums can carry us to the top. We are already unfavored to win game 2 on the draw here in this matchup. Good thing is that this hand is good against something like Surgical or Fire Macabre because we can cast Otherworldly Gaze twice. So I will risk it. Maybe this is too risky, but one fast way to lose with this deck is when you mulligan many times. Dredge mulligans really well, but sometimes you just mulligan into Oblivion without having a good sequence to do on turns 2 and 3. And I will keep this hand. We can put Narcomoeba on the bottom. Okay, my opponent has Leyline, so it doesn't matter. I could think here for a long time and my opponent just has Leyline. Maybe we can top deck bounce spell. We draw Faithless Looting, so I'll just put Scalding Turn to fetch a basic island and pass the turn with the intention of resolving Otherworldly Gaze. But my opponent can have a Pyroblast here. Okay, we don't want any of those cards, so I will just clean the top of my deck. Let's draw a Dismissal effect. Not yet. I will not cast this Faithless Looting yet. I will just wait one more turn. My opponent is not doing anything scary. Maybe they have a Fable. No, they have nothing. Just lands. So they kept this hand solely on Leyline. And we have an LED. With LED now, I will cast this Faithless Looting. We can get rid of Breach and the second Volcanic Island. I can keep LED. I will just place a Cephalic Coliseum and pass a turn. My opponent probably is a smart opponent and know that I have bounce spells for Leyline, so maybe they are just holding a bunch of counter spells. Think with Imp, okay. So in the case we draw another fetch land, I will just cast Stink with Imp, trying to win on the next 20 turns. Okay, another land for our opponent. Another Otherworldly Gaze. We don't need to cast it right now. I can wait one more turn. Another land, okay. My opponent has mana for days here. Another Mox Opal. So, and a Lotus Petal. Okay, they are doing that because we can cast a Cabal Therapy maybe. 3 cards in our opponent's hand. Do I keep Careful Study? I don't think I keep Careful Study. I will just put everything into my graveyard and pass the turn. Narcomoeba. We can cast something like a Narcomoeba. So, we are the aggressor now. We are probably not, but it is fun to cast a Narcomoeba against. This is turn 7. My opponent did nothing to win the game. Just a Leyline of the Void. Maybe now they have something. A second Leyline, okay. So our best way to win the game now is hitting another land to cast this Stink with Imp. Or other Narcomoebas. Yay! And this was interesting. My opponent chose to tap Ancient Tomb to cast the second Leyline instead of tapping their red mana. So they probably have Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast in hand. Because if you don't, you could tap 2 lands here, right? But they chose to do this way. So this is interesting. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands. We still have 6 lands in our deck. And 3 Narcomoebas. Maybe my opponent is considering here to destroy a Narcomoeba. Oh, okay, passes the turn. We draw. Okay, another creature. We just need Underground Sea. My opponent is on 16 life. We pass the turn. They passes back. We draw another land. Unfortunately, I chose to side box out, right? So yeah. So this land is not useful. I will not even play it. Because if you draw something like Faithless Looting, I can just discard our unneeded land. Okay, now I will play it. My opponent is already on 14 life. No Fables, no creatures. No artifacts, only Mox Opal, only defensive cards probably. Now they... Okay, Phyrexian Dragon Engine. This is a 2/2 double strike. They can win... Okay, Faithless Looting in 5 turns from now. Another Faithless Looting. I will discard Grave Troll and an LED. And I will cast my second Faithless Looting. Okay, an extra Narcomoeba is not that bad. I will discard LED and Grave Troll. I attack for 1. We are already 30 cards deep into our deck and no Dismissal. But my opponent is obviously holding counterspells with 6 cards in hand right now. They can destroy my Narcomoebas at any time. Another Petal and a third Leyline. Okay. This is overkill or what? Anger. I can cast Anger from my hand. Okay, this increases our clock. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we both have the same clock, but we have the first attack. My opponent needs another creature. Okay, they have Sokenzan. Now they have extra tokens. And they are attacking for 6. We could have a fetch land here. Another mountain. We don't need it. So we can attack for 4. My opponent attacks us back for 6. We go back to 1. And then we will not have lethal. I can keep 1 Arcomoeba to block here, 1 to block here, and attack for 2. Unfortunately, we cannot cast those cards right now. We have only 1 Underground Sea in our deck. I'm considering attacking for 3 and holding 1 Arcomoeba back to block Phyrexian Dragon Engine. This can forces our opponent to just destroy the blocker. And if we top deck Kiyora's Dismissal, we have a chance to... do I sided Kiyora's Dismissal? I'm not sure. No, I don't. So yeah, we have no choice. We have no ways to win against relay lines without Kiyora's Dismissal. So we can hold Anger to block here. I will attack with 1 Anger. But we have no choice, right? Yeah, we have no chance. But it is fun to consider all the scenarios here. Because 1 more turn without doing anything, and we could win this game just racing our opponent even with 3 Ley Lines of the Void. I will just block here and here. Okay, my opponent has a Goblin Welder, and we have nothing. Okay, we can concede here. So we know that my opponent is playing in Ley Line of the Void now. So I will include Kiyora's Dismissal here, and now I'll get this Ox back instead of Ashen Rider. Ashen Rider against a Ley Line deck is not. And maybe I can take a Dredge Return also, since I don't have any great Dredge Returns targets here. And Dredge Return is not good against Ley Line of the Void. My opponent will probably mulligan until they find a Ley Line. So yeah, we have 5 Dismissals and Anger, but no Dredge Return and no Dredge Return target. If you're playing against Painter and you see that your opponent are not playing Ley Line of the Void, you just can be more aggressive than that. Oh, this is so good if my opponent don't have any Ley Line. This is so tempting. This hand can be really good if my opponent don't have a Ley Line of the Void, but I believe they will try to hit a Ley Line. So I will mulligan this hand with some pain. But I think this, unfortunately, it is a mulligan. Unfortunately. If this was an island, I could consider keeping it, but no, unfortunately. Okay, this is good. This is good. We can keep it. I will take Faithless Looting from my initial hand because we cannot cast it. And let's see if my opponent is also already mulligan to 6. I opted. Okay, no Ley Lines. No Ley Lines is good. I will immediately cast this Otherworldly Gaze in my opponent's upkeep. I will not wait because they can have Pyroblast, for example. So I will just pass the turn. My opponent kept 6. Probably it is a good 6. Probably this is a good 6 because without Ley Line. Yeah, so maybe this Dismissal is good to just bounce some of our opponent's first place. And we even have Kiyora's Dismissal to bounce an Urza Saga. Okay, so here is the moment that I play Otherworldly Gaze. An Arcomoeba, Cephalic Coliseum, and a Mountain. Arcomoeba and Mountain. I think I keep only Cephalic Coliseum with this hand here because we can Dismissal something or just cast Otherworldly Gaze with Flashback. I really want a Mountain, but we don't need it yet. So this can be put into our graveyard. And I'll keep Cephalic Coliseum as my second land. So we have an Arcomoeba. This was an amazing hand against Ley Line, but my opponent just opted to not go. So, oh, okay, they have Agatha's Soul's Cauldron. And we cannot bounce Agatha's Soul's Cauldron here. To win against this card, we need to have a great turn with many possible targets for it. Because if you don't know this card can target any card from a graveyard to exile that card. And when they exile a creature card, they can put a +1/+1 counter on target creature they control. This is a way to my opponent combo kill me with specific cards that they can discard to win in a single turn. So we will just attack for 1 here, and I will wait until my opponent's upkeep to cast some. Oh, or right now, since they are trying to exile my Otherworldly Gaze right now. Poxwalkers, and Otherworldly Gaze. This is interesting because if I feel the need to be really fast here, I can just put both Poxwalkers into my graveyard and crack ADD to cast my Otherworldly Gaze at instant speed, putting both Poxwalkers back, and I will have 7 power in play. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe this is the right play here. Instead of trying to win against Soul Cauldron, I will just play my cards right here, trying to win. Right now, I will have both Poxwalkers back, and this Otherworldly Gaze will set me up to the next turn. Okay, everything into my graveyard. Agatha's Soul Cauldron can exile only one target. So yeah, this was a great play. This was a great moment in this league. Let's see if all of this will pay off. So I can just press F6 here. I obviously cannot do anything. Let's see if my opponent has something better than Agatha's here. Agatha's Soul Cauldron, Goblin Welder, and another Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Okay, so my opponent didn't notice that Soul Cauldron was a legendary artifact. So they needed to destroy one of them immediately, but they decided to get rid of my Golgari Grief Troll. So now can be a great turn for us. Unfortunately, we don't have a Dredge Return, and we don't have a mountain to have Angry Zombies. So I need to have something to block this, probably, in case my opponent can discard other cards from their hand. But yeah, let's crack Cephalic Coliseum first. Dredge 5, Dredge 6, and another Bridge. We have 1 Cabal Therapy only, and 1 Faithless Looting. Not useful, we don't have a mountain. But now my opponent can... do I attack first? I don't think I attack first. I could attack first. I don't think my opponent will get rid of this Goblin Welder. I don't think they do. But they are already on 14 life. So I think I will just cast Cabal Therapy first. I will name Goblin Engineer here. And since I'm explaining each one of my plays with... okay, just Painter and Fable. That's great. So now we will attack for 7. And you have Lethal next turn. Okay, my opponent will trade here. So... remember to order your Bridges triggers correctly to have more zombies. And I will just press F6 here. Since I'm explaining every move that I'm doing, we are really low on time. But I think this is enough to win. my opponent just told me here, keep forgetting that this stupid thing is legendary. So we have the win. Yeah, so we have the win against Painter. And this league is really tough right now. So far, really tough. But we are winning. We are winning. With tough matchups. Let's go to our next match, 4th match. Okay, so this is round 4. We are paired against Dula. Whoa, this can be a turn 1 with a basic mountain. I will keep it. This just folds to Force of Negation, but this can be a great turn 1 if my opponent doesn't play counter spells. And we are on the play, so let's test my opponent's hand with an LED. Okay, it resolves, so let's try to combo right now. It's time to combo. We crack LED in response. And Dredge 6, we already have an Anger and a Dredge Return and Ox. Just one Arcomoeba. We will discard both Grave Trolls. And I will cast Ox instead of Faithless Looting because it's Cephalic Coliseum on legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards exiled. It also resolves. My creatures have haste. Oh, this will be one of those times that my opponent concedes before revealing any cards, right? Since we already have the win for no... There is no chance to our opponent to win here. If they let... Okay, no, they are conceding. I will just cast Careful Study really fast, naming the first thing that Magic Online shows me, just to see my opponent's hand before they concede. Okay, this is a turn 1 win. And now... Okay, since we are so close to a trophy, I will just do a quick research on my opponent's name to see if I have a clue about what they are playing. Okay, it seems my opponent plays with Enchantress. And if this is Enchantress, my opponent maybe have something like Surgical Extractions, and maybe some scary enchantments like Rest in Peace. I'm not seeing any Rest in Peace in my opponent's latest result, but maybe it's not the same list, and my opponent is an Enchantress deck. So on the draw, I will have some answers to enchantments. Sometimes an Enchantress deck can have cards like Elephant Grass that can be really hard to deal with because we have black creatures, and with an Elephant Grass on the battlefield, we just cannot win. Stun Dismissal, only with Narcomoebas, but well. So some Stun Dismissals seems like a good catch against its deck. Maybe Curious Dismissal too. I'm not sure if I will play every card. My opponent also can be playing any other deck, and since we don't know for sure. I will take some of my Dredge Return package here with this kind of Dredge Return. I will take some of my otherworldly gazes here on the draw because they are quite slow. And maybe I take one extra card here. Yeah, maybe I don't need 5 answers to enchantments, even against an enchantress deck, if it is the case. Because if I don't see Leyline, I don't see myself playing 5 answers to enchantments. So I will take one Kill Resist Missile and keeping answers to creatures if my opponent plays creatures. And so let's just take 4 cards and put 4 dismissals into the deck. It would be hilarious if this is not Enchantress and my opponent is playing something like Reanimator, for example. So my opponent is having a mulligan to 6. This has no answers to enchantments, but this can be a great turn 2. With Careful Study, we can fetch Scouting Turn, 1 card into our graveyard. Careful Study will be the second, Golgari Thug the third. This is not a guaranteed. We will discard other card, 4 cards. So this is Cephalic Coliseum activation on turn 2, and a third and a second Cephalic Coliseum activation on turn 3. This is kind of slow, but if my opponent plays with something like Wastelands, for example, this is really good. I don't think my opponent plays with counter spells, but if they do, we can just discard Golgari Thug due to hand size, and then deploy our lands to correct Cephalic Coliseums in the next few turns. So on the draw, this is a slow hand, but I think we can keep it because my opponent is already having mulligans, and we don't know for sure what they have. So they are mulligan to 5 now. Maybe they have Leyline. They are mulligan to 4, and I just kept a slow hand. You don't need to mulligan that far. My opponent kept 4 cards, plays Wooded Foothills, and passes the turn. We draw another Dredger. This is actually good. So I will fetch a Volcanic Island here and cast Careful Study. This resolves. We find Faithless Looting. This is not that bad. Unfortunately, we have an Narcomoeba in our hand right now. We prefer to have them in the deck. Maybe my opponent was expecting a faster start. Maybe they have Surgical Extraction and is considering their options right now because we have 2 Dredgers. And my opponent fetches for a Savannah. And now, Snow-Covered Forest and Living Wish. Okay, a creature or land. Maybe this is Fairy Macabre. Endurance. Okay, so my opponent has an Endurance. And they cast it immediately, exiling. Okay, this is Enchantress. So my opponent exiled Sithis Harvest hand, and now they have only 1 card in hand. This is not the right moment to cast an Endurance against Dredge, but I'm talking more about that in articles on my Patreon. You want to maximize Endurance, and this is not the right moment to play it. So I will fetch this Scouting Turn to another Volcanic Island since I have 2 Faithless Looting, and I will cast my first one. Okay, we found nothing. Those are not good hits. I will discard my Narcomoeba here. I'll try again. Okay, now we have something good. I will discard my Underground Sea. I don't think we need it. And I will not play Lion's Eye Diamond yet. Let's wait 1 more turn. Next turn I can crack a Cephalic Coliseum and cast Careful Study and Faithless Looting all in the same turn. Unless my opponent have something else. Okay, just an Enchantress. So we even have the chance to win right now, after an Endurance. So, Dredge 5. Anger, yes. So, Cephalic Coliseum. LED. I will cast Careful Study. My opponent, even if they have Endurance, they cannot cast it. So, we are good to go. I will discard my hand with 3 red mana from LED. And now we Dredge 6. And we Dredge 6 again. And I discard both Grave Trolls. Do I have Ox yet? I don't have Ox, right? Oh no, I do have Ox. Okay. So I will first correct Cephalic Coliseum instead of casting Faithless Looting, because I can find an Ox. So let's wait on this. Dredge 6, Dredge 6. Ah, 1 Narcomoeba, finally. And Dredge 5. We can discard 3 Dredgers. We have 1 Poxwalkers, and we already have 3 Bridges. We have no Dredge Return here, right? I'm not sure if I took. Yeah, we have 1 Dredge Return in our deck, but since we don't have Dredge Returns, we can just cast Faithless Looting. Now Poxwalkers comes back, everything will have haste, and we will end this turn with something around 12 to 15 or maybe 16 hasty zombies to win the game. My opponent is seeing that they have no chance. Maybe the last card is a Surgical Extraction. Maybe they are considering casting Surgical on Poxwalkers. No? Okay. We will Dredge 6. Okay, we have an Ox here and a Dredge Return. Do I go until we have only one card, because if my opponent has something like Surgical Extraction, let's consider that. They will need 2 Surgical Bridges, and if they do, our best shot to win here is just attacking with a Giant Grave Troll twice. So I think I will just dredge 4 here. I would like to hit my last bridge from below. So I will, yeah, and we don't have ways to draw more cards, so maybe I'm just overthinking here. Let's dredge 5. Yeah, we hit our last Poxwalkers and our last bridge. We will discard 2 cards. So now that we have everything we need, and Narcomoeba comes back, and I could here just cast Cabal Therapy targeting my opponent just to be sure, but I don't think they have Surgical Extraction. Even if they do, I'll have a Giant Grave Troll and extra Poxwalkers to the next turn. So let's go for the winning move here. Or, oh, you know what? Let's maximize our plays here, since this is an educational video. So I will cast Cabal Therapy first, sacrificing Poxwalkers. Both Poxwalkers will come back, and I'll have 4 zombies. If this resolves, I know that my opponent have nothing. This will resolve, but against an Enchantress deck, but just to sequence the moves, my movements in the right order, because this is what you will do against any other deck. So there's no reason to be lazy here. Let's show what our deck is capable of doing. Because now I have 4 bridges, I have both Poxwalkers, I have probably all of my Cabal Therapies in my graveyard. What my opponent could do if they have Surgical is Surgical my Anger, and then top deck something like Elephant Grass. Okay, after thought for a long moment, my opponent let me do my thing, and I will name a good day to pie. Just a Misty Rainforest, so we have the win. Dread return, yes, reanimating Grave Troll, and now we have the win. My opponent is not conceding, so let's go further. Let's see how many zombies we can get. Okay, now my opponent concedes. We won the match, 2-0. Now we are playing for the trophy. Let's go to our final match. Okay, this is our last match against Easy Money Marksman. And this is a mulligan, no lands, no keep. We are on the draw. This is unfortunately also a mulligan. My opponent kept 7. So this will be already a hard matchup. Okay, this is unfortunately is not a keep. And if my opponent has something like Thoughtseize or Grief, this will be really bad. But we need to go to 4, unfortunately. Okay, this is bad. We need to top deck another land to play this Faithless Looting, but it is what we have. This is tough. This is the toughest mulligans that we had so far in this league. But yeah, we need to top deck a land here. My opponent plays Underground Sea and passes. So maybe this is a Reanimator or a Scaminator land from the top. Just a basic island. We will play it and pass a turn. Let's keep our opponents guessing if this is control matchup. But usually people on the Magic Online knows that I'm a dredge guy. I'm a dredge player. Okay, this is Reanimator. So yeah, you can entomb. Atraxa. Now what? Roll, okay. To get the second land. Underground Sea. Do they have Reanimate? They do. And now this Atraxa will reveal 10 cards. No lands. Interesting. So my opponent will probably keep Animate Dead. They can keep Brainstorm. They can keep Grief. They could Grief me 3 times. That would be awesome. So they choose Brainstorm, Reanimate, Animate Dead, and Grief. Grief, Exiling Troll. Okay, you can take one of my Faithless Lootings. And next turn they can cast Animate Dead on Troll or on Grief. This could be really worse than what was, right? This could be really worse. So now my opponent has an Atraxa and probably a Grief or a Troll. But with this Brainstorm, they can have many more than that. Much more than that, I'm sorry. So Atraxa is attacking me for 7 damage, dealing 7 damage, and getting 7 life back. Best draw for us right now is an LED, because LED allows me to just resolve a Faithless Looting and then crack Encephalic Coliseum on the same turn. Another good draw would be another land, so I can cast Faithless Looting from my hand, or from the graveyard if my opponent reanimates Grief this turn. My opponent casts Cast Ponder and opted to shuffle, and then a Brainstorm. So I would guess they are trying to hit their 3rd land, and they hit it. Now they will reanimate something, probably Grief, I would guess, but maybe Troll trying to win next turn. Grief, yeah. And now they will get rid of my Faithless Looting. And if we draw exactly Lion's Eye Diamond, we have a chance. Not a Lion's Eye Diamond, so we need to wait one more turn. My opponent will deal 10 damage, and they have an Animate Dead to reanimate Troll maybe. We are low on life, only 3 life. Entomb, okay, they will reanimate something bigger. Probably Archon, yeah, to deal the last 3 damage. Okay, so we lost, and since we are playing for the trophy, I will try to pick at my last opponent's result, to see if we need to deal with anything interesting after sideboarding. Okay, my opponent's build probably have cards like Orcish Bowmasters and Doughty Voidwalker after sideboarding, and they don't have a combo kill like our first match of this league with Chain of Smoke, if this is the same list that I'm seeing. But of course, Line of the Void is great. I will take my largest creatures like we did before. Even Dread Return. Anger is a possibility. We can keep Anger, but I will probably take Anger as well. So this is not a turbo matchup. This could be a turbo matchup. I could keep a turbo hand on the play. I could do it. But my opponent can react really quick if I don't achieve my turbo hand. So instead of trying to go turbo, I prefer to be more resilient here in case my opponent has something else. But I on the play, I think I will still keep Anger. My opponent probably don't play with Dark Ritual, so turn 1 Doughty Voidwalker is probably not possible. But they also have Force of Will and Daze, so this is a hard matchup. This is tough. Unfortunately, we have this bad mulligan on game 1 on the draw. Yeah, so I will take the Dread Return package and keep Anger to include 4 ley lines. I think this is our best configuration against Reanimator on the play right now. I won the die roll. No, I lost last game. I would like to play first. This is awful. We mulligan. This is skippable. This is not good. This is skippable because we have ley line and we have Otherworldly Gaze. And if my opponent counters my Otherworldly Gaze, I can cast it again on next turn. My opponent is also having mulligans. This is not fast, this is not that good, but it has a layer of protection with a Line of the Void and a way to keep going after that. I will keep it and I will put 1 bridge back into my deck. My opponent is going to 5 and we have Leyline of the Void. My opponent has no Leyline, that's good. And now I don't think my opponent plays with Force of Negation, but just to be sure, I will cast Otherworldly Gaze into my opponent's end step. I could, since my opponent also have Daze in their deck, I could here just cast Otherworldly Gaze right now, trying to find something before my opponent can cast Daze. But I will not do that because my opponent can reanimate my Dredge creatures. So instead of doing that, I will cast Otherworldly Gaze, even if my opponent has Daze. That will be a bummer, but I feel like we need wait. I lost games in the past when I tried to be smart and cast Otherworldly Gaze into my opponent's upkeep with a ley line, and it just reanimate my only Dredger, and then I don't hit anything else. So if my opponent has Daze, they have Daze. And let's see if they... Okay, they don't have. And we also hit other cards as well. Lion's Eye Diamond is tempting, but I don't think we can keep here because I don't think we can keep Lion's Eye Diamond here. I think we need to put everything into our graveyard. If our opponent plays something like Fairy Macabre, for example, this is tempting. I don't think they do, because we have 2 good hits to Fairy here. Okay, so we dredge 6. Okay, we have Anger. And another Otherworldly Gaze and a Cabal Therapy. So I will start playing Mountain here and casting my second Otherworldly Gaze. Let's see if this reveals something good. Another Narco. Again, Lion's Eye Diamond is tempting, but especially because we can just discard our hand next turn, and we don't have any dredgers right now into our graveyard. So an LED is tempting. Do we keep it? My opponent has no Doughty Voidwalker on turn 2. So, oh, this is tough. Do we keep Lion's Eye Diamond? I think we do keep it, and then next turn we can cast Otherworldly Gaze, trying to hit something better. And if we don't, we just discard our cards. Maybe we find a Faithless Looting or other cards. Yeah, I will keep LED. This is close. Now we have 2 Narcomoebas with haste. I would guess my opponent has something like Troll here. And their plan would be something to reanimate Troll, because maybe they don't have Black Land yet. I'm not sure if I will cast this Cabal Therapy right now. I don't have bridges. they cannot play a Doughty Voidwalker. I'm not sure if it is correct to just get rid of one Narcomoeba to have a guess here. So I'll just pass a turn. Yeah, and they have nothing, okay. They can have something like Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, a black land. Underground Sea. Okay, they want to bounce our Leyline of the Void. Okay, bounce it. And we cannot cast this Leyline, so we will just draw an LED. Let's cast Otherworldly Gaze first. Okay, we have even a bridge from below. I will put everything into my graveyard. What we really want to have here right now is something like Poxwalkers. Since we already have another bridge into our hand, I'm feeling that the best move here is just discarding LED to have one extra zombie. But I will not win the game just with one extra zombie. Here we can attack for 3, or we can attack to 5 to deal 5 points of damage. LED is really good when we finally reveal a Faithless Looting. So I think we will just cast Cabal Therapy here, targeting my opponent. Reanimate is probably the right name here. Reanimate. Entomb is also scary, but if they have Entomb plus Reanimate is what they can play next turn with 2 black lands. They have only 1 black mana available so far. So if they have something like Animate Dead, they can only Animate Dead one of my creatures. So Reanimate is the name. Oh, just Brainstorm, Force of Will, and Atraxa, okay. So they need to find something. It is interesting that my opponent opted to not force any one of my plays. So they are really confident to find something else. We don't have anything else to do, just attacking for 3. So my opponent kept this hand because they have Force and Veil of the Forgotten, but they didn't force any of my plays. So they probably think Otherworldly Gaze is a narrow card, too narrow to be countered. And it actually is, but it's also our secret weapon to come back from hard situations like this one. Okay, my opponent brainstorms. Let's see if they will get Brainstorm locked, or if they find their 3rd land. They would probably like to have some reanimation spell to target my Synchro Imp, but they don't. And we will dredge 5 here. Hopefully finding a looting. No looting, okay. Okay. We still have 33 cards into our deck, in our deck, trying to find our looting spell. So we can only attack for 3 here, and the clock is ticking. I would like to find our looting spell, or a Cabal Therapy to take my Force of Will, the Force of Will from my opponent's hand here, to have more zombies. Okay, they have a Surveil land. They kept this land on top, so they knew about it. And now they have Atraxa into the graveyard, so they can reanimate Atraxa. Okay, yeah, this is the trick that Reanimator has at its disposal right now. So Brainstorm helped my opponent to just put Atraxa 3rd from the top, and then this land was a good call from my opponent. Let's see what my opponent will keep. They have Brainstorm, Force of Will, Polluted Delta, Entomb, Power, Keg, and Grief. They can get rid of my bridges, unfortunately. My opponent is a good player. So Grief will die, and my opponent, the best choice from here is just put another bridge, yeah? So they can exile my 3 bridges, and now it will be really difficult to come back from this. My opponent also kept what? Polluted Delta, Entomb, Power, Powder, Keg, and Grief. Grief they already used. Exiling and Entomb. They polluted out, yeah. So this is my opponent's hand plus 1 card, I believe. Okay, we need to hit really good here to... Okay, we have a Faithless Looting. So maybe we can find our both Poxwalkers. Actually, my opponent... No, let's undo this display. My opponent has a Force of Will, at least one of them. So first, I will cast Otherworldly Gaze here, because we can find Cabal Therapy. We didn't, but we found a Bridge from below. So we can put Bridge into our graveyard, Otherworldly Gaze into our graveyard, and Careful Study on top. And I will force my opponent to... Now that I know that I have a Careful Study next turn, I will force my opponent to use their Force of Will. Yeah, and they do. Exiling Ponders. So they have Brainstorm, Polluted Delta, and Powder Keg. And now I just pass the turn here. Powder Keg is absolutely insane at this moment of the game, because I have only 1 bridge and my opponent can just get rid of my zombies at their will at any point of this game. My opponent attacks. I will block, maybe forcing them to destroy my zombies. But my opponent is a good player. They will not crack Powder Keg immediately, I think. Oh, they don't even cast it, Powder Keg. Okay, I will draw my Careful Study, Maybe my opponent have another force effect. Well, we don't have any choice here. We can just cast Careful Study. Why they opted to not cast Powder Keg here? They have Force of Negation? Yeah, they have Force of Negation, okay. That's why. Okay, so we probably already lost here. Let's wait one more turn to decide. I can just press F6 here. Yeah, now they deploy this card, they play this card. Atraxa deals 6 damage because of this aura. And we don't have any ways to deal with an Atraxa. Our best way to deal with it is putting some pressure into our opponent. But we, against Reanimator, we sided out many of our pressure. Ox would be good here, but without Trip Bridges, we don't have that much power of coming back. We found another Narcomoeba. This can buy us one more turn. We need Poxwalkers here, and our last trick about Therapy is to just try to have many zombies, but I don't think this will be good enough. Because my opponents still have this layer of protection. Okay, our first Poxwalkers, about Therapy, and Careful Study on top. Let's do the math here. Atraxa has Vigilance, so they will go to 28. Even if my Careful Study resolves, I will have maybe 6 more zombies, but my opponent will yeah, we have no ways to win this game, guys. Unfortunately don't have ways to win this game. I will just concede here. GG's. Almost there. So this was a nice run for 1, and we almost got a trophy. This was a tough match in our final round. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about the deck. I'll take this opportunity just to show you some data here. This was a 4-1. So I'll take this opportunity just to show you that I'm having great results with this deck. But some players keep questioning me about some of its characteristics, like the mana base, or the fact that I play with only 11 dredgers and not 12, or even the Duskana. I think at this point, any dredge player can do slightly different choices, can tune your deck to be better according to what is your way to play. If you tend to play like a combo player, if you want to play like a control player, we have many layers, we have many flavors of dredge right now. We have Turbo Dredge, we have traditional Rainbow Dredge, we have a Blue Dredge, and you can expect next turn a new video of my latest Blue Dredge deck that I still love. So I think Turbo Dredge is great. This was almost a trophy. I'm having great results with it. I almost won a challenge recently, and I hope you enjoyed this league. If you have any comments, you can write them down here, because this is a new channel, and I would love to just see what you think about this deck and to answer your questions here, like I did with my last video. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and keep dredging. Click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment, and I see you on the next league.